How are you doing? I'm Martin from Gardens for Life. So this is our 25th session of our questions and answers and our live chat here. I just had to change a few more settings and we'll just hang on in there for a few people to join. And if you're watching this afterwards or if you're listening to the audio of it, we will be sharing some of the resources that we are mentioning in the podcast as well. So just take a look at our website. That's where all of those will be shared. And we'll be looking forward to some of your questions. And please remember, if you have any questions, please put them in all capital letters, or at least put the word question in front of your question so that I know that they're for me and not for someone else. So we're going to do another 50-year voucher giveaway today. We'll do that about halfway through the show, so that we're not going to keep you guys waiting for too long. And I have some pictures to show you of the garden. We had a group in last Sunday of Earth Care Permaculture from Hannah's group that she brought over here. So some permaculture students actually were taking a guided tour around our gardens, and we were teaching them how we did it and all about plants, all the different types of plants as well, and all the different methods like no-dig gardening, back to Eden or forest gardening, lasagna gardening. There's all these different tools we have in our arsenal of skills, I guess. And just let me know, please, if you can hear me okay. Is the volume good? Is it too loud? Is it too quiet? Please let me know in the chat. And please ask any questions you might have about gardening, or especially no-dig and forest gardening, perennial plants in particular. That's one of our expertise. And you can also ask about chicken keeping if you like, and homesteading as well. Anything related, or even business-related questions, such as starting a business or anything related to production, marketing, or sales. Just looking over here to see if there's anything new in the chat. How are you guys doing? Thank you for letting me know. And thanks for joining us tonight. So what we're going to do is we're just going to show you some of the pictures of the new garden. And for that, I'm going to give you guys access to a folder, or I will bear with me now for 1 second. Now, so actually this is the group of people that helped us make a new no-dig garden, and I finished it off in the last couple of days and planted it all up, and it looks really good now. We started a lot of new cuttings, and we did the stepping stones you can see on the right hand side, and a nice wide path so that we have a nice comfortable walk all the way from the beginning, or from the start of the garden all the way into the greenhouse, and so that our dogs have plenty of room to run as well without having to run into the no-dig gardens. I keep explaining to dogs that a no-dig garden means that you're not supposed to dig, but no, they're great. We just put the white cabling all around, just basically a wire. It's not electrified actually, and we're basically just doing that to let the dogs know where they can go and where they can't go. So you can see some of the cuttings here that have been stuck in the ground, various different varieties of elder and blackcurrant. And the stepping stones, that's one of our dogs. The stepping stones are actually a great way to keep most of the growing space rather than making a full-on path. You can just kind of step from one to the next, and then you can plant all the way around and service the bed, which is really only necessary for weeding, for example. You don't ever have to water garden beds in Ireland anyway, not where we are. And there's some lemon verbena in the foreground here, some oca, lots of rhubarb, and valerian has been planted there. And we've got lots of perennial mixed poppies as well. anything really, any kind of plants that are both useful and multifunctional and easy to grow and perennial as well. That's the other garden. So you can see here it has really taken off, and you can see the fennel here. That's actually a special variety of fennel, and it's actually going to seed. So hopefully we'll get the seeds from it. You can see the courgettes too. They're actually just finishing up now, and you can see how lush the garden has become. So please let us know if you have any questions at all. And just put those in the chat. And if you're watching this afterwards, or if you're listening to the audio after the live chat has been broadcasted, just keep your questions for next Thursday. We're doing this every Thursday at 9 o'clock GMT. For those of you in the US or elsewhere in the world, we are based in Ireland. So that's our time zone is GMT, 9 p.m. Thursdays. Again, this is actually where the compost pile was, and we just had to move the compost down the hill a little bit, and some of it with a wheelbarrow. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't like, we didn't really need the front loader of the tractor for this particular garden because we had the compost pile right beside where we want the garden to be. So it's easy enough. And I'm going to take away most of this compost here just to leave a layer, basically about 4 to 6 inches is plenty to grow on plants and to grow vegetables too. And this time of year now in August is really the last chance we have to start plants from seeds and cuttings. And I'm doing my best to start as many as I can this week, because next week I'm going to start the homesteading, and I'm going to be doing all kinds of different homesteading related projects, such as building a new chicken coop as well and a doghouse. So this is comfrey. I planted only a few weeks ago, and you can see it's doing really well. And that's the first garden that was planted in April. So that was only about 3.5 months ago. I think it was somewhere around that, 14 weeks, I think. And you can see the yacon here, which is a tuberous vegetable, really nice to eat. It's kind of like an apple, and you can harvest it in the winter time after the last frost, or after the first frost, I should say, first hard frost. Same as the oca, actually. We'll wait for the first frost until we harvest them. And you can see the corn here in the background. Hang on, I'll probably have another picture. There's the corn. Does anyone here have more success than I had with corn? Did you grow corn this year? Please let me know, because I'd like to know what variety works best in Ireland. This corn was planted out in April. I don't know if it was maybe a little bit late in the season, or maybe it was just a bad year for corn here in Ireland, at least in the Midlands. This is Golden Bantam. I think it was just a dull summer overall anyway. And we had quite a lot of droughts as well in May and June, even in July too, which was a good problem to have when you have constant rain for most of the year anyway. We don't mind the old droughts, but it didn't help the corn anyway. I think the corn is a very specific crop. That is the Portuguese kale, which is actually on the spicy side. So it's not really, I do like spicy food, but not spicy kale really. But it's a great one to grow from seed. You can also grow it from cuttings as well. But look how lush that is. Just take a look at that. And there was some caterpillars there a few weeks ago, or even a month ago. It didn't really damage them at all. Like, they just took one leaf, and look at the amount of leaves here. So it's great animal fodder too, and great to keep for the winter time. The leaves stay fairly good quality throughout the winter, at least until January anyway. So you can use those in soups and other dishes, or feed them to your chickens, for example, or whatever kind of animals you're keeping. Except for cats and dogs, they can't eat the kale. There's one of our dogs, and you can, just for size comparison, it's a huge plant. And one leaf is probably enough for a whole family meal. But you can see it's a very successful crop, especially considering it's been grown from seed only in April. And that's the garden. You can see the great mullein here. Those great mullein plants actually are testimony to the fact that when you introduce an extreme amount of fertility into the garden, like into your local environment, in the form of 4 to 6 inches of compost, like mushroom compost, for example, even biennials actually end up being annuals. They actually go to seed in the first year. So they're able to grow so fast that they've gathered enough energy and decide, you know what, I can go to seed this year. I don't have to wait for the winter or for next season. So can be a good thing if you're growing it for seed or for the flowers or for the insects for that matter. That's the mashua, which is a great plant. It's a tuberous nasturtium, and the leaves are not spicy like the nasturtium leaves. So they're actually very mild and a nice flavor. And the tubers are very spicy though. And they also make these lovely flowers in December, as late as that in the season, if the first hard frost doesn't knock it back. Usually November and December you get the flowers, and they're so nice to eat. And they look really nice too in the garden. They're really sweet. They produce a lot of nectar, I'd say. And there's some winecap or King Stropharia. It's also known as garden giant. And we didn't have the spawn for this particular type of culinary mushroom for sale this year. But next year we're going to make an extra effort to grow a new colony of it. And we're going to be introducing it into all of our paths again as well. So that's actually a great mushroom you can grow. And it is really nice to eat. It tastes a bit like steak, actually. And King Stropharia is the name if you want to grow it yourself. Best time to plant it is really in summer or in spring into fresh wood chips. And of course, you don't want them to dry out. If you live somewhere where it gets really hot, and you don't want to really grow them in full sun either. You might have to water the wood chips if it's during the summer. But once they've established, they're going to be there forever, as long as you keep feeding them fresh wood chips every couple of years. And you can get 5 or 6 flushes of mushrooms every year during the growing season. Oh yeah, sorry, one thing I forgot to say about the King Stropharia, it's also a symbiotic mushroom, so it actually connects to all of the plants' roots and extends the root systems, and it actually gathers up moisture and minerals and other food that the plant needs, and somehow it's able to communicate with the plant, and the plant gives it sugar in return from its photosynthesis production, which is really nice. And you'd be wondering how Mother Nature has its own internet already with the fungal networks, like the mycelium networks, and connecting all of the trees and connecting all of the plants as well. And actually, imagine an internet, coming back to the mushroom, imagine, Paul Stamets once said, imagine an internet where not only you could send a message to your granny somewhere in a different country, but she could also send you cookies back, like physical goods you could actually send over the internet, like in an email or something like that. That's mycelia networks, actually. And it's well worth looking up and learning more about. It's actually one of those crops, you know, it's not going to be in the way, and it's actually going to be beneficial to your plants and the rest of your garden and your soil life as well. But it needs a lot of wood chips. But even if you have them just on the path, that's fine. Now, if you have questions, just throw them in there in the chat. I'll get to them when I get through these pictures. There isn't that many pictures now. There's a few more, but we'll get to the questions after a while. Our courgettes are still growing. There's still a few. A lot of them get too big. We just give them to the chickens, and they love them. Can anyone tell me what plant this is? Because I've forgotten. And there is a label there somewhere, but it's just a flower. Please let me know if you know what it is in the comments. There's another picture a bit closer up. All right, that's the comfrey. That was only planted there about a month and a half ago as well. That's the greenhouse now. And that's our dryers. So we're drying some different leaves and flowers. And there is the seeds that I've saved from the St. John's wort, or not St. John's wort, the Jacob's ladder and the Alexander's seeds. And we've got lots of seeds. I'm going to make a new video on seed saving, and I'm going to run a seed saving workshop as well. So if you're local to the Midlands of Ireland, please keep an eye out on our events page. I'll be putting that on the screen in a minute. Look how many seeds you get. a tremendous amount of seeds you can save. And actually, funny enough, the Jacob's Ladder seeds are no longer available in blue, only in white. It's actually also known as Greek valerian. And I'm happy to be able to get free seeds from the garden. I basically spent 5 or 10 minutes just putting entire seed heads or entire flower heads that have gone to seed into a bag like this one, and basically gathered like €20 worth of seeds in like 5 or 10 minutes. And I've got the blue variety again now, so I can grow more of them next year. I'm delighted now. And I got to do more seed saving, don't we all? And it's easier than you think. All you got to do is gather them up and dry them for storage. If you're not going to store them, if they're perennial, you might as well, if you want to just start them all now, which you probably dry some of them anyway for next year, in case the ones you start now don't do too well, you can actually start seeds now. So some of them I'm actually going to use fresh. I don't have to bother drying them. I'm just going to throw them straight into some seed trays with potting compost or seed starting compost and water them in. That's the salt bush. That's still going. That's several years old now. And it has unfortunately smothered our lemon verbena plant. That's why I have a new one outside. Apparently it does okay outside. That's figs. We've got plenty of figs, starting up new plants. As you can see here, somehow some brassica seeds have ended up in the potting table. So that's actually gone a bit dry there now, but you know, they've been watered. I've been watering them once a day. All these trays here. And I've started a bunch of new seeds from Cedarholic, all various different medicinal plants and perennials especially. A lot of wildflowers. We'd like to get bees next year, actually, because why not? We've got so many flowers on our little acre that it's well worth having them. And we do have actually lots and lots of different species of bees that come to our gardens, especially they're mad for the motherwort. And let me see here, have I got a picture? This is actually the great mullein going to seed there. And that's the giant catmint. And that's all one plant. It's hard to believe it. It's like 2 or 3 square meters now. And there's a ton of insects, especially bees, feeding off it at the moment. Still for the last 6 weeks now. And it's a giant rhubarb leaf. So again, the dog for scale. He doesn't mind posing for scale. And that's the perennial barge. I'm glad to have a couple of patches of it now here and there. And it's a lovely plant to have. That's the curly willow or corkscrew willow. So beautiful, and especially in the gardens, especially in the winter time too, when you can really see the wood, it's kind of reddish brown. And that's our wheelbarrows. That wheelbarrow there is still going. We got that actually back in the day, I think it was like 12 years ago, and we got it for free from a marketing company in Dublin. And it's still going now, although I would not recommend plastic wheelbarrows. They're a little lighter than the metal ones, but the metal ones last way longer. Yeah, that's all the pictures here. Let me just take a quick look at our questions. Thank you guys all for joining, by the way. I didn't get to see how many of you there is. There's quite a few of you now. And hello, Kevin. How are you doing? Hello, Adrian. Here's a question. How many years do strawberry plants crop for? I find that as soon as they go into the second year, they're not that great anymore. It's better to take the runners and start them off again for spring. So you take last year's plants in spring and pot them up. You're better off to grow strawberries in containers. You can grow them in wood chips, like the Back to Eden method. Paul Gauci has some really good material on that, especially with one of his garden tours. He shows them. And the way he actually does it is he just grows the strawberry plants in wood chips, literally just wood chips, but they have broken down already underneath. So there's plenty of nutrients available for the plants. And then he covers the strawberry plant, the entire strawberry patch, with a little bit of a fresh layer of wood chips, just to smother off the older plants again, to get new plants to pop up. But the way we found it to be more successful in general is to put strawberry plants into containers, like at least 2 liters. You want to go to 3 liter per plant, 3 liter pots, something like that size. You can produce 0.5 kilo of strawberries per plant. No problem, as long as you put them in full sun and somewhere close enough to the house or wherever people are on a daily basis, because otherwise the birds will take them all on you. Definitely zone 1 if you're familiar with the term permaculture. And you can also grow strawberry plants, like say 6 to 8 plants in a plastic crate that you can get in the supermarket. Sometimes you can get them for free. Sometimes you can buy them secondhand for €1 or 2 a piece. Plastic crate is actually an ideal way to do it. You fill it up with compost. You don't need any kind of bottom. You just throw in compost, well-rotted compost, and then you put your strawberry plants into it. You can grow them on in the greenhouse on a table, or you can just grow them outside, but you're better off to grow them on early on in the season. That way the plants have time to bulk up before they automatically go to flower and produce fruit. So then you can take them out of your greenhouse. Then if you want to, you can crop them in the greenhouse too. But if your greenhouse is far away from the back door of your house, for example, where you would be on a daily basis, you can take the crate and just put it near your house or near your back door, somewhere in full sun and somewhere where the slugs and birds don't go at them too much. I think that's a good way to do it. But in general, I wouldn't bother using 2 or 3 year old strawberry plants. We just use them as mother plants, really. But strawberries take a bit of effort. I prefer growing raspberries. They're a bit weedy in the gardens, but I find them to be more effective and less maintenance in general. Let's see here. Oh, Chris is asking, will you get any other animals, such as ducks or pigs? Yeah, one of these days, yeah. We did have a couple of ducks before. They just dirtied the water, or they were with the chickens. You really want to have a separate area for them. If you are getting ducks, they'd be nice to have, especially for eggs, whether it's for eggs or meat, one way or another. You're better off to not mix them with chickens, because they'll dirty your water on a daily basis. And they do need to swim. They have to have some sort of a pool, at least some sort of a kid's pool. But the problem is the chickens will pierce it, because the chickens have spurs or claws. So if you are keeping ducks, you gotta have some sort of a pond, ideally, or some sort of a kid's pool that you can dump out every day and refill with water. But it's a bit of extra work. Pigs, we'd love to get pigs someday. Yeah, we're looking into it, and we're doing more research about it. I've been told by some of the people that have visited here and have gone for the guided tour of the garden that once you've eaten homegrown pork or pastured pork, not from a CAFO factory for sale in the supermarkets, you'll never ever go back. You'll never buy pork in the shops again once you've eaten the real thing, home reared and properly fed, a species appropriate diet, not grain fed, 100% grain fed. Just a little tip for you, Chris. If you're looking for better quality pork and it's kind of affordable, it's €8 a kilo in the Polish shops, actually, Polski. They do a good quality pork. It's not as good as you could get, but it's way better than any of the regular supermarkets for €3 a kilo. And you can also get it from, there's a farm in northern Roscommon, I forget what it's called, but it's gone up. It was €14 a kilo last year. This year it's €18 a kilo for pork, and it's quite a lot to pay. We'd like to do that some of these days. We didn't get that far yet. Another question here from Colette. Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. I started a new compost heap early this year. Sorry, sometimes I have to do this because the camera is right in front of my screen. I started a new compost heap early this year. When can I use it to, or when can I use it to plant vegetables? Well, when the compost has broken down enough for it to be available, or for the nutrients to be available to the plants. So basically, when you're doing composting, all it is the bacteria, generally speaking, eat up the nitrogen, and they also break down the woody materials, the carbon in the compost in the same process. And the heat actually kills off weed seeds as well. If you have a big enough pile, the bigger the pile, the better, because the hotter it'll actually compost and the quicker it'll happen. So we don't produce compost ourselves. We only buy in mushroom compost, and we leave it typically 2 or 3 months during the summer, and then we use it. and it's already broken down very well by then. But if it's during the winter time, the soil life is less active and the biological activity is much lower. It'll take 6 months over the winter, and then it's usable. Of course, a year is better. 2 years is even better. But if you haven't got that much compost, or if you don't have that much time, then, and if you're producing your own compost, probably 3 to 6 months, I would imagine. But 12 months is better, of course. And by the way, we don't turn our compost either. We just leave it in a pile until we're going to use it. And that works fine for us. We also have something called insect piles instead of compost piles, where we just simply, everywhere in the garden, every 10 meters or so, within throwing distance from any place in the garden, we have something called an insect pile, where we simply throw all of the woody debris from the gardens or the weeds into the pile, and then eventually the pile builds up, and then over time it kind of contracts again. Like it basically breaks down, and the insects and the soil life actually break down the materials, and then the runoff from the rain washes away the nutrients and usually into the plants that surround it. So we have other plants that are cultivated plants planted all around your insect pile. So the insect pile does two things. Actually, it does three things. It gives habitat to the insects to overwinter. Hopefully they'll overwinter in your garden, like the beetles, they eat slug eggs, and all of the pollinators, hopefully as well, or some of the pollinators, so that they're going to end up there in the spring, and then they're ready to go pollinating all your plants, your fruit trees, your berry bushes, and all the rest. That's why we plant a lot of willow. We plant a lot of willow because the willow provides early pollinator food, like nectar. Well, the second reason is because it's an easy way to produce fertility and get rid of the weeds and all the woody debris. Basically, it breaks down over time. And if the weeds grow, we just tarp it for a few months during the growing season in the summertime. And that takes care of the weeds coming back after you throw them on the compost pile or the insect pile. And then, of course, number three, all the fertility gets washed away into all of the cultivated plants that we have planted all around it. So anywhere you have a no-dig garden, especially, or any kind of garden, just make sure you have some plants that catch all the fertility on the downhill side. Just remember, Jeff Lawton once said, there is no such thing as a level piece of ground or a level field in the world. It's always going to be sloped in one direction or another, ever so slightly. Only salt plains are the most level place, actually, and they're not even 100% level. But anyway, the best thing you can do is catch the fertility on the downhill side of your garden. For example, I put a greenhouse down, and then all of the fertility from the no-dig garden is washed down into the side of the greenhouse, and it stays there. And then the greenhouse plastic is actually trenched way down into the ground, like 2.5 feet, or about 2 feet at this point, including the wood chip layer. And we just planted things like, you can plant fruit trees, you could plant, not right beside the greenhouse, but anything that produces a lot of leaves, especially like kale or rhubarb, for example, are easy crops to turn from excess fertility into something usable. Now, let me just take a quick look here. Again, if you have any questions, please do ask in the chat on whatever platform you're watching this. And just put the word question in front, please, all capital letters, just so I know it's directed towards me and not somebody else. Let me take a look here. No. Hello, Escape to Rural Wales. I remember looking at your YouTube channel, actually. I'm keeping an eye on it. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let me see here. So I have a question here. Sorry now. Hello, Mike. How are you doing? Welcome back. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention, actually, I haven't mentioned it yet. We did our first pilot little, a bit of a medicinal herb course today, where we walk around the garden and talk about different plants. And then we also talk about the different methods you can use to extract your active constituents from your herbs, aka flowers, roots, or leaves. So we'll be putting that up on the website at some point soon, and we'll be we'll run a herbal workshop one of these days. If that interests any of you, you can go to this website here, gardensforlife.ie/events. I like to read things out because some of you will be only listening to this on the audio, and of course then you don't have any visuals of what's on the screen. Now let me just take a look here. Just bear with me for 1 second. Now I have a question from Ray here. When do you replant the garlic bulbs for next year? So that's a good question. Garlic is perennial. It's actually in the leek family, but it's a perennial plant. I've been leaving some of the garlic in the ground, any variety at all really, including garlic, like elephant garlic, for example. It's all the same. You can just leave it planted in the ground year after year. You don't have to harvest it, and it'll just keep clumping. Each of the bulbs will actually, or each of the cloves will actually split again, and you end up with like a little clump of bulbs in the end. So if you want to, Ray, you can actually look up harvesting elephant garlic, or 3-year-old elephant garlic plant. That's one of the newer videos now from a couple of months ago. In that video, I'll talk about that quite a bit, and I show you what kind of level of production you can expect. So basically, one 3-year-old elephant garlic bulb, or clove actually, I planted one elephant garlic clove, and after 3 years of letting it grow, 3 growing seasons, I am basically looking at nearly a bucket worth of elephant garlic bulbs. So that's a good level of production. I didn't have to do anything for it other than sacrifice a little bit of the space in the garden. And you can replant it anytime. From now until the end of the year is ideal. Definitely, it's better to get it planted as soon as you can now. Anytime, September, October is perfect, because it'll actually grow a little bit before we get into the colder and darker season, and it'll grow through the cold as well. It'll actually grow through the winter, and then you're going to get a much bigger harvest rather than planting your garlic, say in spring, for example. If you plant your garlic after the last hard frost, your garlic bulb or your cloves are not going to split, and you're going to end up with single clove garlic. So like one big clove you're going to end up with rather than it split. So it's kind of inconvenient if you want to replant it, like if you want to multiply it. So we have another question here. Is all borage perennial? My plant came back from last year, but I'm not sure if it came from roots or from dropped seeds. So if it's regular borage, it's only an annual. It will come back. It becomes quite weedy in a lot of gardens, and you'll know straight away if it's an annual borage because it actually grows quite tall, and it'll also wilt away. All the leaves will have wilted away. But if the leaves look something like this, hold on a second. Let me just show you. If the leaves look like this, then it's perennial borage, and it grows from the root. You can actually divide the crown, and you can take pieces about that size, and it'll actually, you can make new plants from it. So it'll keep clumping, and I find it to be very convenient because it doesn't appear to be weedy. It just keeps clumping, and I haven't seen it spread from seed yet. This particular variety of borage is perennial, and it's quite rare. I haven't seen it elsewhere yet, and I think it's a really good one to grow because you're going to end up with the star flower. You know, it's the 5-petaled flower at the beginning of the growing season, basically, and you can use those to make basically an infusion, and you can use it as for actually if you have a problem with the eye. So borage is really good for that. Hang on a second. Yeah, I definitely have seen a lot of people complain about regular old borage, that it kind of goes to seed and it spreads its seeds everywhere. It didn't get past year 3 in our gardens. I've tried to make it, I've tried to give it the opportunity to actually spread itself and naturalize in our gardens, but unfortunately it didn't prevail, so it just perished. But the perennial borage does really well. Elizabeth, hello, how are you doing, Elizabeth? I say, love that corkscrew willow. It's so beautiful. It is. And the actual twist in the corkscrew willow is caused by a virus, believe it or not. And viruses are not all bad. I think viruses are a part of nature. That's my belief. And I think viruses play a vital role in nature too. And actually, Paul Stamets' research has shown, he's the leading mycologist in the world, that his research has shown that the fungi networks around the world, especially in forests, are actually responsible for the release of viruses into the ecosystem. That's something. It's definitely groundbreaking research. So I have a question here. I am about to plant some trees for fuel. I want to get a biofuel boiler. What trees would you suggest? Someone told me super willow because of a 5-year harvest. So there's a lot of trees you can grow for firewood. The question is, what thickness of wood do you want to grow? If it's just kindling size, like an inch thick, an inch or smaller, I would suggest definitely biomass willow or hybrid willow. Also hybrid poplar. They do really well in the UK. I presume you're in Wales, because Wales is in your name, and you have roughly the same climate as we have here in the Midlands of Ireland. I think willow, hybrid poplar. You can do alder as well. That grows fast, and it's great for especially for very wet and waterlogged ground. Other than that, really, any kind of wood, but stick wood in particular is actually tremendously useful, because you can just harvest it every winter, and you can dry it really quickly as well. So I've done willow, like inch thick willow, and they're long lengths as well. Like they're like 5 meter lengths, or what's that in feet? 18 feet. And you can cut those up very easily, and you can also dry them really quickly. They'll dry in a matter of a month or two. Maybe I'd probably give it 2 or 3 months if you're going into the fall season. And you can also put them into a little shed made with greenhouse plastic. So I've built a shed from pallets for as little as €140. And it's quite a substantially big shed. It's like 3 by 4 meters or so. And it costs very little, and it's really only built from pallets and a greenhouse plastic on top, and it actually dries kindling very quickly, and other woods too. We've even dried hardwoods in it in 1 year, and we've made it very usable. It's already evaporated a lot of the moisture. So anyway, yeah, so definitely any tree that you can coppice or pollard, which means that you're basically cutting it back every winter and it'll regrow. Now, let me see here. Do we have any other questions for the moment? Here's a question from Chris. Have you ever seen the corkscrew hazel? It looks amazing in the winter. I have a tree. It looks nicer in winter. Yeah, the willow looks nice in winter too, and especially some of the other varieties of willow. We have a lot of colorful varieties like the flaming willow, the burgundy willow too, and the black willow. So they all look really nice in the winter time, because the wood actually kind of puts on more color in the winter. And but the willows are really the easiest to grow, and to grow from cuttings, so you can root them very easily. And the corkscrew hazel, like all the hazels, it's probably very difficult to root. So it's not an easy tree to multiply. The only way I can think of to actually multiply the hazel, or to propagate the hazel tree, is to actually do a stool propagation, where you actually let it grow, you cut it back, let it grow lots of little shoots from the bottom up. Then you scarify or scrape away the bark a little bit on each of the cuttings or each of the stems, and then you build it up on the sides with like a collar, and the soil, you put soil into it, and then those will actually root over time. So it takes like several years It's a big process. I have a question here from Adrian. Eucalyptus. I haven't grown any eucalyptus yet. I had a couple of trees, but they didn't do too well. I'm growing Sichuan pepper though. It's not related, but it's a really nice tree to have. We have the first seeds on the tree now this year. Yes, borage. Borage is probably best kept in containers, but it's still going to spread everywhere, kind of like marigolds and poppies as well. Another question here from Adrian. Sorry, I have to look like this for those of you who don't know, but the camera is right in front of the screen here, right here. I'm hoping to propagate raspberries this autumn. My question is it the new green growth that I use or the old growth produce fruit? So depends on the variety. I would suggest growing a variety that is a primocane, where it actually produces it produces fruit in autumn on this year's wood, and again on the same wood in the early summer next year. So a primocane variety is good. Just when you're propagating your raspberries, really they propagate themselves through root suckers. And if you're harvesting the plants and you want to make sure that it's the same variety as you have, you need to make sure you take up the plant from near your existing raspberry clump. Because if it's far away, elsewhere, let's say at least 5 meters or 10 meters away from your original raspberries, chances are the birds probably picked up a little raspberry seed or fruit and maybe pooped out a seed over there. And it's probably not going to be the same variety, especially if it's thorny. If the stem is thorny and your original variety is not thorny, then that has become a wild variety. It does happen, and it can become quite a weedy problem as well. I find raspberries to be actually the weediest plant of them all in the garden, but we love raspberries and we don't mind. We have lots of varieties, especially the fall gold or the golden raspberries, because the birds just don't know that they're ripe. They figure it out eventually. Some of the birds are smarter, but by the time those raspberries ripen, especially the autumn bearing ones, we get a flush in autumn now. Actually, it's just coming in now, and we're going to be able to eat most of those because the birds have other food to eat in the hedgerows. So Mike is saying, thanks for the herbal remedies workshop. Well, thank you for coming. We highly appreciate it. We did pick up the wood afterwards, and we just about made it home successfully on time, just about for the live stream. But I did want to actually go through the pictures as well. So yeah. Thank you, Mike and Vanessa, for coming. Have I ever grown wasabi? Yes, you can, and it's a very fragile plant, and it's not really worthwhile. You might as well just grow cold temperate wasabi, which is essentially a horseradish. It does the same thing. And I'm not saying it's as good or it's better, but it does pretty much the same thing. It's a spicy root. The wasabi leaf, of course, would be used in Asian dishes. I have been given, Ray, you wouldn't believe it. Maybe you're familiar with Klaus Leitenberger in Sligo with the Organic Center. I've been given a wasabi plant from him. He is saying he gave up on wasabi. I have it still. I have it planted actually in the greenhouse at the big garden. So let's see how it goes. It's coming back. It took some serious transplant shock, and hopefully it's coming back anyway. Hopefully next year it'll do very well. Or I have no tips really. All I know is it needs to be grown in the greenhouse. I think frost will wipe it out. Okay, folks. Well, if you want to enter our giveaway this week, please enter into the chat the word enter in all capital letters, and you can win a €50 voucher for our online shop. This is our online shop. It's just gardensforlife.ie/shop. We sell lots of plants, cuttings, perennials, root divisions, all sorts of plant propagation materials, mainly perennials. And we don't mind if you propagate them thereafter and give them to all your gardening friends. That's all the better. We're just sharing the surplus that nature has given us. And you can win a €50 voucher for the online shop. And please just enter the word enter in all capital letters into the live chat. If you're watching this after it had gone live, as in if it's no longer a live chat, then you can no longer enter. But then don't be disappointed, you can still enter next week as well. So if you want to take a look at the shop, by all means, please do. And let us know if you have any questions about the shop, either now or you can always email us as well, contact@gardensforlife.ie. And this month, we also have an early bird 24 discount still for the winter selection. Actually, that includes everything on the shop. You can get 20% off, but don't use that code yet because you might win. If you don't win, you can still come back next week and we'll do another giveaway. But let's see now. We're gonna start up. We're gonna crank up our random number generator. Actually, it's a random. It's a website that randomly selects a winner out of the chat. So just enter, last chance to enter the giveaway for a €50 voucher for our online shop. Sorry to keep repeating it, but I just want to make sure that everybody that wants to enter, please use the word, enter the word enter, all capital letters on the chat. And this week's winner is Colette Clark. Congratulations, Colette. And please do send me an email to contact@gardensforlife.ie straight after the show, or even during the show if you want to, and we will send you further details. And for those of you who didn't win, hard luck. Hopefully you'll have better luck next week. Next week, next Thursday, we'll do another giveaway of a €50 voucher as well. But in the meantime, if you'd like to ask us any questions between now and next Thursday, just send us an email and maybe even send us some questions for next week's live chat if you can't be there at that time. And we'll be happy to address your questions and actually answer them for everybody. Thank you guys for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. And if you want to come to one of our events, we usually put those on whenever it suits you. So you can email us whenever it suits you. You can check all of our events here. We also have free guided tours of our gardens. And you can become a member of the Gardens for Life support community. Right there, if you want to support us, you can become a member. There's lots of advantages, such as a big discount on everything we do, and you get priority booking and you'll be VIP, so to speak. But also you'll get a discount and a free gift with every order as well, and you'll get access to the forum, the members forum, which we're in the process of setting up. And we're also on Patreon for those of you over there. We're Birdland Homestead on Patreon, if you'd like to support us there. And we also have an email list, which is free of charge. You can just go to gardensforlife.ie/subscribe. And please do join us there, because then you will never miss anything we do. Anything that we post up, we send out an email, probably 2 or 3 times a week. We usually send out an email letting you know whenever we have some new content or a new video out or something going on. So please do join our email list. I just put the link for the online shop into the chat. All right. Thank you, guys. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.